I've been wanting to get back into Risk of Rain 2 challenge runs where I play as modded characters, especially given that the Sonic run from a while back seemed to strike a chord with a lot of you. Well, it is the closing throes of Spooky Month, and I've effectively explored every facet of the Seekers of the Storm expansion that I can at this point, so no better time to get back into the swing of things. It may not be particularly traditional horror, but it's certainly going to be scary one way or another, as I answer the question: can you beat Risk of Rain 2 as HUNK? HUNK is a character from the Resident Evil series, known primarily for being a coldly ruthless and efficient mercenary leader, tasked with leading his squad Alpha Team to break into the Umbrella Corporation's nest and procure a sample of the G-Virus from Dr. William Birkin, a fellow Umbrella scientist. He is always hard focused on his mission, to the point where mass casualties in his squad and low survival rates effectively mean nothing to him. This ends up translating into Risk of Rain 2 in a surprisingly coherent way, so while this gritty hard-ass is far from home, he can at least hold his own where it matters. I hope. So, much like with the Sonic run, I'll be playing Risk of Rain 2 on Monsoon difficulty as HUNK, using the eponymous mod by Rob Gaming. The plan will be to fight Mithrix and beat him, and hopefully I won't break the game's coding over my knee in the process of doing so this time. However, much like the Chaos Emeralds in the Sonic run, I'm going to be going out of my way to do some mod-specific tasks for this one, but I'll go into what that means for me in just a moment. Anyway, with that taken care of, let's do this. It goes without saying, but the first takeaway I get from our black and red friend over here is that he is spoilt for choice. Very spoilt for choice. Of course, most of the stuff here isn't unlockable, and some are impossible for me to unlock with my current setup, but there are a few things I can choose right from the get-go, as well as a few cosmetic things I unlocked during some test runs. I chose the emergency survival kit to help boost my nice effectiveness as well as my scavenging abilities, and the shoulder bash for a more offensive playstyle. Past that, however, there are a lot of things to unlock, some of which I've done via testing the mod, and that means a lot of challenges related to the character. Yeah, I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm not doing all of those side quests. If you want to go ahead and do that yourself to find out the extent of this mod's potential, then I'll leave the link to the character mod in the description below. Nothing can be done about it now, however, so we just have to trek out into the vast wilderness and see what we can do. We start our mission on a distant planet as HUNK seems to have been jettisoned very far from Earth, and naturally he decides to get some practice in for the long fight ahead by brutalizing the local wildlife. But it seems as though he's the right man in the right place, as it's not long before we have to start dealing with one of the mod's many unique mechanics. In each stage, at least one monster will end up affected by either the G-Virus, T-Virus, C-Virus, or sometimes even the Ouroboros virus, and will only grow stronger and more dangerous the longer they're left alive. In order to get our unique tools and upgrades, we have to hunt down and murder these monsters so that we can collect the virus samples they drop, which in turn can be traded for keycards, which can then be used on special cases that contain shiny new weapons and the like. For this challenge, I'm going to take out every virus-affected monster I come across with whatever I have. I'm also going to be aiming for the side quest that has me gain at least one weapon in every available slot I have, so I'm probably going to be in this one for the long haul. For now though, my tiny little knife and pistol will be enough to do the deed. I should also mention now that there's a lot of resource management involved, as each gun does have a finite amount of ammo, which you can get back from looting chests and barrels, purchasing items in general, as well as sometimes getting them from enemies after knife kills. So if you're wondering why I'm being more of a pack rat than usual, that's why. Before I turned in my G-Virus sample, I hit up a nearby Shrine of Chance, which granted me my first items in a mediocre antler shield and a perfectly suitable set of lensmaker glasses. And in probably an understated part of the mod, the cosmetics for each item actually shows on HUNK's model. I don't know why that was so surprising the first time I tested it, but it was. I bob and weave my way to the drop zone to turn in my virus sample to acquire the Spade keycard, as well as procure a Trophy Hunter's tricorn from a nearby equipment barrel. Despite how drunk the thing seems to appear today, it will at the very least save me plenty of bullets when I tackle the first boss of the run. It isn't long before I run into my first Umbrella Corporation weapon case. This one contains an upgrade for my MUP pistol, the muzzle brake, which essentially reduces the recoil I have while firing it. Not the best thing I could have gotten, but it also could have been significantly worse. After slaughtering an extended family of lizard men, I grabbed a healing drone to keep me topped off, acquired some ammo that came with a free oddly shaped opal before making the discovery that using my utility in the air completely negates fall damage. That's useful to know. 1 chronobauble, 2 healing drones, and a mini shooting gallery session later, I decide to hell with it and just funnel items into the nearby goat hoof printer. I lost my lens maker glasses in the struggle, leaving me to take my frustrations out on the nearby lizard populace. Okay, enough stalling, it's time for the first boss fight. And there it goes. It dropped a pair of titanic knurls as well as a frag grenade, which I generously donate to the nearby wisps. In fact, I think every boss unit in this game will crap out frag grenades upon defeat, so I guess that's something. After everything was taken care of, I hit up the bazaar between time to visit the interdimensional lizard merchant. I purchased some Gestures of the Drowned and some prayer beads just in case I run into a cleansing pool, and make the discovery that purchasing lunar items like this actually gives you some ammo for free. That's pretty neat.
Thank you.
With nothing else in the bazaar really appealing to me right now, I dive bomb my way into the caves to tackle the void fields. When I came through here as Sonic, I got an unlucky roll with the enemy modifiers, so let's see how this one goes. The first round contains lesser wisps. They are slow and weak, and 1 or 2 shots from my pistol are more than enough to deal with them. Or at least it was at first, but I then made the discovery that virus events can still happen in here, meaning I had a bunch of C-virus wisps to shoot down. I'm saying that as if they're threats. They're not. Sure, they want to specialize in explosive handshakes after draining their health, but they're all quickly dealt with. I grabbed some lens maker glasses to avenge the pair I lost earlier before bunny hopping my way to Zone 2. I even made sure to deposit my virus sample on the way, though I don't get a keycard for this. Rather, I get an ID wristband that allows me to open special weapon cases. I'm sure that'll come in very handy. Round 2 gives the wisps a ton of drugs. Not that it'll make them more of a threat when they receive a 9mm round to the skull before they can ever get close. It did give me the idea to get a soldier syringe of my own though. Round 3 just down the road brings in blind pests to join the party, so needless to say, I have to start taking things seriously now. It's a little on the tense side, but I get it done and get some gasoline. I mean, why not? Crowd control means less bullets spent. Before I started round 4, I got some looting done from the chests for some items and ammo, and boy did it pay off. Not only did I get some mocha, I got a red item from the large chest, namely the Wake of Vultures. Not sure how much the elite powers will help, but I guess we'll see. I also got a squid pullet, but that's neither here nor there. Round 4 gives the enemies 5 sets of tougher times, which is pretty annoying, but because I have been looting and plundering every chest and barrel I could, I have plenty of pistol ammo to keep them at bay. Very simple clear, I get myself a medkit. Round 5 introduces beetle guards, seemingly to mix things up a bit owing to everything thus far being a flying nuisance. The squid turrets irritate me, but at least they distracted the beetle guards at first before I swooped in and took the glory and frag grenades for myself. I also discovered that I could use the special key to drop the frag grenades to spare them for later. That's actually really handy. I weather the storm and get an Old War stealth kit before taking my frag grenade to the next zone and accidentally waste it. Oops. Either way, round 6 gives the enemies death marks, which effectively means nothing. Simple enough clear, give me that old guillotine. On the way to wave 7, I got another medkit, as well as one of the 3 most goated items from the Seekers of the Storm expansion. The Sail Star. Why do I like it so much? Well, you see...
That's a surprise tool that can help us later.
Round 7 brings in one final enemy type, that being brass contraptions. Suffice to say, I'm being swarmed from the skies by just about everything. I make it through though and get an ignition tank. Directly synergizes with gasoline, so makes sense. I got myself a needle tick from a void cradle next to where I needed to go before I used my sail star to get a power elixir and a monster tooth. Honestly, even with the non-upgrade to the monsters in the form of their regen scrap, that's a little underwhelming. but I make it through the wave and get another ignition tank. With one final knockback fin, I start the final round that gives the enemies a runic lens, which drops meteors on an enemy that takes heavy damage. Not gonna lie, I'm not sure if I ever got struck by one, but I wasn't willing to stand still and find out what it'd do to me. After a lot of stabbing and pistol rounds, I completed the final wave and got myself the headset. Better still, I could loot whatever's left in this place. In one of the more interesting remnants, I did come across the corpse of a member of STARS. Not sure how he got here, really. Now, I could interact with that corpse and gain an item, but it would be a bad idea to do so. You see, doing so grants a STARS badge, and while it can do good things, it's also classed as a lunar item. Why? Well, guess who happens to be obsessed with STARS as a group, to the point where he will actively pursue anyone who may even be partially involved? That's right, picking this thing up will cause the Nemesis T-type to start hounding you throughout every level until you use it on a STARS case, which I believe grants a guaranteed red item. What you're seeing here is footage from after the run was over of this effect in action, using one of the mod's unique artifacts that gives you a STARS badge to start with. With it in your inventory, Nemesis will spawn and you'll be constantly harassed by him. You can stun him momentarily by dishing out enough damage to him, but he will eventually get back up and continue the pursuit until you get rid of the badge, and presumably leave the level he's in too. While I'm not going to make use of this during the run, as I want to at least give myself a chance, I'm not against the idea of giving this mechanic its own challenge run in the future. Let me know what you think. Back to the here and now though, and HUNK has been brought to Wetland Aspect, where it isn't long before I've been informed of another C-Virus outbreak. Luckily, it's time for HUNK to do what he does best, shoot strange monsters that he doesn't quite understand. I also used up the sales star on this big chest, which... yeah, not the greatest pair of rewards, hey. I took my frustrations out on the remaining Explodey McGees before making the discovery that opening Lunapods can give you plenty of ammo. Before long, I have my second keycard in hand, and I made a beeline for the case I saw earlier, granting me a new weapon in the form of the SSG double-barrel shotgun, which clearly must be rare if just getting the damn thing is achievement worthy. I also gain another case that adds a dot sight to my pistol, so that thing's getting pretty pimped out, all things considered. After landing an impressive shot on this jellyfish, I decide to hit up the teleporter to begin my first actual boss event, a fight with another stone titan. Well, fight is a very strong word here. 15 pistol rounds followed by a bunch of slashes in his legs, and he turns back into rubble in less than 20 seconds. I then use the grenade he dropped on his nearby children, before getting my third titanic knurl of the run. With nothing else to do aside from slash what's left for more ammo, I head off to stage 3. I was dropped in sulfur pools next. Not only was I dropped right next to a void seed, but I was soon informed that I'd need to stop my first T-Virus outbreak. This gives the monsters multiple health bars in effect, so that's good. I wanted to just let the T-Virus monsters and void-touched monsters duke it out in a turf war, but I decided to pitch in with a grenade, which missed. I just settled on using the way markers to gauge their positions and fired my pistol in their directions until the game said stop. I also may have rashly used up my sales star, but at least I got a refund. And that refund came in as clutch as it ever possibly could, as the nearby rusted lockbox I opened gave me 2 red items, the Hardlight Afterburner to give me more shoulder bashes, and an alien head to reduce my skill cooldowns, as well as the HUNK exclusive effect of giving me more ammo for my drops. God, I love the sales star so much. I also decided to invest in Lost Seer's lenses, as I realized that HUNK was a lot like Railgunner in that he can target weak points for extra damage, so having a chance to instantly delete non-boss enemies could be a lifesaver, especially for a build that has rapid-fire guns involved. I also found an equipment drone to offload my useless tricorn to, so I guess I'd now have another free distraction on my side. Finally grabbing my T-Virus sample, I gained a diamond keycard and a singularity band. After some exploring, I tried to work out where the umbrella cases could be. A radar scanner would have been really useful here. Before finding another STARS corpse, and then what I was looking for in the area I spawned in from. The reward in question was a lightning hawk. If we were to compare the MUP to this thing, I guess it'd be like comparing an M1911 with the Desert Eagle. Low ammo count, but significant stopping power. Satisfied, I hit up the teleporter and decided to swap out to the LE5 SMG, seeing as how I have more ammo for the thing than I know what to do with. With all of my current upgrades, they make very quick work of the Beetle Queens and their children. I even stomped their literal golden child into the Shadow Realm for added disrespect. From there, it was a simple holdout inside the caves until I spotted the second umbrella case out of the corner of my eye, giving me another weapon for the collection, the Quick Draw Army Revolver. It's a decent find, not that I'm really going to make much use of it. I then dip into the Merchant's Interdimensional Shop to see if something there will tickle my fancy this time. The answer? More beads, which, spoiler alert, I'm never going to be able to make use of. I then scrapped a few of my white items for a pair of ukuleles, and then acquired one Sonorous Whispers, a fairly decent red item from Seekers of the Storm. It did end up using both of my ukuleles, which forced me to get another, but oh well. Onwards and upwards. The next stop was Sundered Grove. Now we're at the point where bosses will start spawning as normal encounters. Knowing this, I decided to test the power of the Lightning Hawk, which was okay, before testing the SSG shotgun. The Lost Seer's lenses ended up coming in clutch with this thing, and thanks to Sonorous Whispers it dropped a backup magazine, which gives me free shots after each reload. Clearly the shotgun would be useful for taking these things out, all I need is the ammo to sustain it. I had another T-Virus event to neutralize, which got pretty tense, I won't lie, but I eventually get it done. After I got myself the heart keycard and dropped a frag grenade I found next to the teleporter, I went on a search for the legendary chest. More red items equals good after all. During the search, I got myself some beads of the prayer variety and an ATG missile. Of course, I committed the cardinal mistake for any Seekers of the Storm player by accidentally using my Sail Star on an equipment barrel. Sure, it gave me a Seed of Life, which is effectively a back pocket revival, but still, that just sucks. After recovering from that mistake, I ended up getting the money for what I was after. It wasn't all that bad in the end though, as I got some spare drone parts, which is something I would have loved to have had during the Risk of Rain 2 as a group video. I'd soon find ways to curb my disappointment though, as I managed to locate an out-of-the-way umbrella case containing another seemingly rare weapon in the form of the chemical flamethrower. It has to be rare if there's an achievement for getting it after all. Feeling satisfied, I hit up the teleporter, which gave me a swarm of wandering vagrants to deal with. I used my stored grenade to damage one and then gunned down the rest of its health bar, before missing my other grenade on the second. At least my SMG was able to pick up the slack. Better still, that one dropped a soldier syringe, and that's just nice. As for the third one, well, I think it was my newly souped up drones that put an end to that one, so with that, I can now act like a ninja by firing shuriken out of my guns. Thanks to the teleporter event, I noticed a cloaked chest which contained razor wire and a bundle of fireworks from the adaptive chest. Welp, back to the merchant I go to do what I do best, bleed him dry of his beads and gestures. I also noticed that even picking ammo up is enough to spawn fireworks. Remember that fact. I established myself in Sky Meadow by shanking a wandering parent right in the Achilles before immediately spotting a case that I can just access right out of the gate. A long barrel mod for my Lightning Hawk that will reduce its recoil and increase its damage. Sure, making your deagle a long boy is a perfectly valid option and all, but still, look at this thing. It looks more like the gun that the Joker used in the 1989 Batman film. It was during all of this that a G-Virus event was occurring, not that I really gave it much notice until the monster infected by it just collapsed into dust above me and dropped its virus sample on my head. I tested out my overcompensation gun on the nearby She construct, and yeah, it's not to be trifled with. Same goes for the SSG, really. After turning in my virus sample, I briefly thought that I got scammed, before realizing that I effectively gained a master keycard to open any and all umbrella cases, and gave me 4 boss item scrap for my troubles. So those things aren't going to be a problem ever again. After gaining another lucky gesture drop, I gain a weeping fungus from a void cradle, which is good as I'll be spending a lot of time on the move, before syncing the primordial teleporter with the planet. I want to loop at least once to get my side quests done after all. Want to know how my Sail Star usage went here? Ugh. With not much more I could get out of this place, I hit up the teleporter, which pits me against a grandparent. One grenade, a bunch of shots from my MUP with supporting fire from my drones, followed up by 4 Lightning Hawk rounds to the hand, absolutely ruins its day. I was feeling pretty powerful at this stage in the run, which is just as well, as that power was soon to be tested going into stage 6. But before I did that, I hit up the bazaar again, getting an achievement in the process, before grabbing a focused convergence and some more beads. And since I was already invested in fireworks, I decided to double down by getting the Pocket ICBM, which increases the amount of rockets I can spew out of my back at a moment's notice. So, on to loop number 2. Up in Distant Roost, I shot down a Beetle Queen that was harassing my drone army, before hitting up a Shrine of Soul that will act as an emergency revive if ever I need it. But then came a strange sound cue. That was the sound signifying the 4th and final virus variant, the Ouroboros. But before I could get that confrontation done, I got a repeat on my crazy lockbox luck with Sailstar, as it granted me a second headset as well as a Dio's best friend, meaning I have at least 2 revive methods at any one time past this stage. What I soon realized though was that the marker for the Ouroboros carrier was set in an inaccessible part of the map, as the door usually leading to the area it was in was shut. Of course, that's just a suggestion for a mere mortal being. As for HUNK, he was more than content to climb the side of the cliff like a Skyrim horse to drop down into the sealed off zone with the culprit, an elite lesser wisp. Here, I decided to weaponize the unique tech when it came to ammo pickups, as I could drop and pick up the frag grenade ad nauseum to launch more fireworks at the carrier than his virus could let him dodge, and possibly give my friend D some fireworks ingrained PTSD just watching this. Before you get at me for grimy tactics, just know that the Wesker Wisp got the last laugh, as the force of the fireworks pushed the carrier over the side of the stage when it was killed, meaning that the Ouroboros virus sample it was carrying dropped into the ocean below, never to be seen again. A valuable resource was lost, but that is war. I also made the discovery that Pocket ICBM inexplicably multiplies the amount of frag grenades I can throw. Keep that thought in mind, as it will come in handy later. I end up unlocking a case that gives me a boost to Lightning Hawk ammo pickups, which is always welcome, but with a bit more searching came a real prize. I got myself an MGL grenade launcher. With all of this firepower, I decided to hit up the Halcyon Shrine and fight the Gilded Beyblade monster. I'm sure you'd be curious on how that fight'd go. Pathetic. Alongside the Razor Wire and Old Guillotine, I also managed to get a Chance Doll. If I can get that good luck to shine even once, then it may well snowball this run harder than it's already rolling at. With my business concluded, I was now fighting a Gilded Beetle Queen. Here, I made use of some of my lesser used weapons, such as the SSG and Quick Draw Army, to put on some early damage, before switching to the Flamethrower to melt the rest of its health bar. I then made sure to use my triple grenade to wipe this stone golem off the face of the earth. I'm genuinely baffled as to how HUNK feels so powerful in this run, by the way. Guess I can attribute that to the flood of red items thanks to those Sailstar lockboxes. Into the Abandoned Aqueduct next, given the instructions to wipe out the Void Seed and neutralize another G-Virus-infused monster, this time a Lemurian. With my ample firepower, it was easy. I then pumped SMG rounds into the Void Seed before making use of my grenade launcher to lay on the damage. With the big boys cleared out, I used my SMG to then charge into the Void Seed and cleared out the remaining stragglers with ease. I'll admit that my knife has fallen off a little, given that I have so many good weapons at my disposal, but that's okay. I have more than enough firepower to keep things going, especially after achieving my full arsenal side quest in the perfect way, gaining the ATM-4 prototype rocket launcher. And in a little surprise twist, my reward for getting the virus to the drop zone was a typewriter. Not for saving my game, but for adding 2 more umbrella weapon cases to each stage. Sounds riveting. Speaking of which, I did find another around here for the single action army, but I didn't know how to swap out weapons in my inventory yet, as you can tell with me desperately trying to get rid of my quick draw army. With no knowledge on how to remove the glue from my fingers, I simply sprinted over to the teleporter and roasted some more Beetle Queens. It was a simple holdout I was successful in, so moving on. It was back to the sulfur pools next, where I soon found that clingy single action army trying to worm its way back into my build. Thanks but no thanks, though I will take the final upgrade to the MUP pistol, which will let it fire 3 times per trigger pull. I'll admit it's nice, but I'm thinking that my MUP might also be falling off a little compared to the rest of my weapons. Plus, there wasn't a virus event, meaning I didn't really have all that much to do besides hitting up the teleporter. It was here that I discovered something about my explosives. Remember the pocket ICBM? The one that makes AGGs and fireworks crazy? The one that also keeps multiplying my frag grenades? Yeah, turns out this also applies to the grenade and rocket launchers, meaning that they'll each fire 3 projectiles per shot. That is terrifying. After testing out my newfound power in my back pocket, I gave the blazing suckball a taste of its own medicine before using the lightning hawk to finish the job. A will-o-wisp this late on is amazing too. With this holdout done, I move on to the next drop zone. Once again, in the depths of Sundered Grove, I gain an unstable transmitter, an item that I love the concept of, but not the execution, as is with a good chunk of the Seekers of the Storm items. It's little more than scrapper fodder at this point. Back to the action, I tried my best to make the MUP useful, but it really isn't doing much against these enemies anymore. But thanks to actually remembering to keep my sales star for the legendary chest, I could get another insane spike in power, as I got Ben's raincoat for added defensive measures, and an unstable Tesla coil for crowd control. I can now destroy lower health enemies without even lifting a finger anymore. I then get myself an upgrade for the flamethrower to boost its fiery potential, a chance doll to give Shrines of Chance more value, and best of all, an opportunity to bombard a Twisted Elite without repercussions. It's just as well this map is about as big as Raccoon City. If that guy over there had been in even a small crowd, me taking pot shots at him could very easily have derailed the entire run, such as the absurd power that they seem to hold. Dropping down into the lower levels, I notice a CQBR, an assault rifle, in a case. And unlike the single-action army that seemed to be stalking me, I actually wanted this thing in my arsenal to replace anything else that was just taking up space in my inventory. But because I had the mental fortitude of salad fingers, I had no idea how to actually drop any of my weapons. Eventually, I looked at the mod page for a solution and found that I needed to hover over a weapon and press my right mouse button to drop a weapon I didn't want anymore. This did work, but wasn't foolproof, as it was finicky in how it actually registered me wanting to drop something, making me drop any other weapon aside from the ones I actually wanted to drop, particularly that damn MUP. I ran all over the map trying to find a safe space to do this, and even went on an actual space mission at one point, but I did eventually manage to get the MUP to drop. With the world's clingiest pistol now out of my inventory, I could finally adopt the assault rifle into my setup. Not only that, but 9 stages in, I finally found a scrapper to get rid of some of my more useless items. But then another problem arose. I found a minigun. And with that, I needed to do another goddamn weapon tango, even spilling pretty much my entire inventory at one point in trying to get the quick draw army out of my inventory. Eventually, it did leave my hands, meaning I could finally add a minigun to my arsenal. Finally satisfied, I hit up the teleporter, swapping to the shotgun as I unloaded into each Clay Dune Strider. Unsurprisingly, they weren't able to last long under my vastly superior firepower, so back to the penultimate area we go. And straight into hell, it seems, as the new Stage 5, the Hellmint Hatchery, was where it decided to dump me. Here I wasted no time removing a twisted enemy from the map before it could be a nuisance, before coming across another weapon case, holding a Street Sweeper shotgun. Yeah, no. Even Payday 2's Street Sweeper would be better than that thing, especially compared to my double-barrel beauty. You know what I would love to take, though? A Shrine of the Mountain. I then got a pretty big yin-yang of luck as I got a sticky bomb which was nuffed into the ground for no discernible reason, before acquiring the Shattering Justice, which is perfect for a build of mine that is all about a lot of semi-auto ordnance. After gaining another spare drone parts from a chest, I began to realize that the spawns were only ever going to get harder, so I pressed the teleporter and went straight into my first real hurdle. The overloading worm was not only just a tougher reskin of the magma worm, but it was in an area with lava all around me. And despite the name, it's not classed as an elite, so I had to deal the whole damage to get this thing dead. I think the fact that I was seemingly invisible was the only reason I didn't use up one of my lives on this stage, but even still, it was not an easy fight. Once the teleporter event was up, I found one more umbrella case nearby, granting a laser sight to my Lightning Hawk and essentially fully upgrading it. With all of that done, it was time for commencement. I was ready for a fight. What I was not ready for, however, was for an actual conversation with HUNK to take place when I teleported in.
This is Nighthawk. Come in, Alpha. Alpha, do you read?
Nighthawk, this is HUNK from Alpha Team.
Man, I thought you were all wiped out. I've been trying
I'm
to...
at point K-12. Need info on my extraction.
Guess there's no keeping down the Grim Reaper, huh?
My extraction point.
Relax, Mr. Reaper. I'm headed toward the front gate of RPD. Pick you up there.
Got it.
I was also presented with a weapons case that gave me a spark shot, which is essentially a superpowered taser shotgun if I'm looking into it correctly. I eventually decided to sacrifice the LE5 in order to make room for this late addition to my arsenal. It was a tough decision given all of the ammo for it, but it served me well for the time I had it. No point in getting sentimental though, I had a job to do. I decided to test out just how powerful my fully kitted out Lightning Hawk was, and... Okay, I understand that it's a fully upgraded Deagle and all, but why is this gun so absurdly strong? Even those flying Gatling gun Lunar Chimeras didn't stand a chance. Well, while I ponder those questions, I headed on over to the Cauldron Zone to see what I'd be working with. With what there was that I could make use out of, I decided to go all in on raincoats, headsets, and shuriken. If nothing else, these transactions would at least get me some more ammo. Prepped as I can be, I set to work on the Pillars of Mass. This was something I couldn't just brute force with superior firepower, especially with the smaller Lunar Chimeras. I held down one pillar superbly before moving swiftly on to the next, and with the enemy seemingly distracted by my drones, I was able to get this done too. I then spotted another umbrella case containing, what else, the Single Action Army. That news did not bode well, so I decided to go even more all in on headsets in the hopes that, if nothing else, the sheer amount of ammo I'd get would carry me over the line. They initially felt like a double-edged sword for the Pillar of Design, but I realized I could just use the Stomp to jump normally and therefore negate the gimmick of this thing. So that was easy. And the Pillar of Blood was... well, what do I say? Just look at it. Sure, it was annoying to see two of them here, especially seeing that damned MUP in a case nearby, but at least I wouldn't have to stay for long. With all pillars charged, there was only one threat left to deal with, and I'm not just talking about the redundant weapons popping up all over the place. No, instead it was time to ascend to the final arena as we deal with a BOW unlike anything we've seen prior. If I were to compare the fight with Mithrix to anything, it'd be akin to the fight against Albert Wesker in Resident Evil 5. I mean, look at the guy's movements. I wouldn't be surprised if the guy had some form of Ouroboros in his veins. 7 minutes may have been more than a generous amount of time to spare playing with us, but if anything, that was only because he seemed hell-bent on focusing down my drones instead of me. Even still, I basically pumped every last round of my assault rifle into him, which was enough to get through Phase 1. Phase 2 sees the Lunar Chimera swarms start to move in, which is where I switched to the high-power Lightning Hawk, the occasional frag grenades, and even my knife again. The focus crystals I got in my build were really doing wonders bringing it back into viability this late into the run. It also helps that for Phase 3, the number of bosses I had just slain gave me a ton of frag grenades to lob around the arena and lay on some good damage. After once again running out of assault rifle ammo, I switched to the Lightning Hawk to try and even the odds, only to get immediately pasted. Mercifully, one of my revives were used up for this very moment, but now I was stuck with an empty Seed of Life. At the very least it could drop near constant healing beacons, but I'd need to be more careful. One by one, my drones started to fall to Mithrix's deadly pizza cutter, but I didn't lose hope, reviving each one as I looked to regain my lost momentum. This fight could easily have ended in much greater disaster under more sloppy game management, but because I've essentially been hoarding ammo like Scrooge McDuck, I could start unleashing the big guns to push him towards his final phase, leaning heavily on the grenade launcher as he eventually went down to his critical Phase 4. You may notice that a weapon case has dropped next to me containing an anti-tank rocket, and yes, it would have been cinematically pleasing to blow Mithrix up with it. But, and try not to be too shocked here, I had so much firepower that I didn't even need it. Instead, you can simply settle for me blasting about 4 grenades into his crotch before switching to the minigun and hosing down the rest of his health bar, bringing down the Nemesis M-Type. With Mithrix down and me taking the grenade he seemingly crapped out on his deathbed, it was time for the escape, and time for another conversation from HUNK.
What the hell, Hunk? You're late for extraction.
Door's blocked. Gotta find another way out.
Heads up. Guys at the top just ordered a full cleanup, so move fast, or you can kiss your ass goodbye.
Surprisingly fitting dialogue aside, the defense of the rescue ship actually seemed to come pre-packaged with intense music. But it didn't last long, as I made the mistake of assuming that I could still gain free movement while firing the minigun, resulting in a very swift death. Thankfully, the Dio I had sitting in my back pocket saved me, but I had to put the minigun away for the final time as I had to lock in. There really would be no more second chances after that one. With one final defense objective to complete, I did the only natural thing for someone who commits the sin of any RPG player that hoards their best supplies for the final encounter. I finally cut loose with my remaining heavy ordnance, blasting grenades all over the place, zapping enemies with the spark shot, and annihilating Void Reavers with my triple rocket barrages until I got the white light of approval filling my screen. With an action-packed defense brought to an end, I boarded the rescue ship, finishing the game and proving that yes, you can indeed beat Risk of Rain 2 as HUNK. Well, that was fun. HUNK essentially plays like a mixture of Commando and Railgunner, the former being a fun enough character I don't utilize enough of, and the other being my main in this game. So, yeah, definitely enjoyed the experience. That said, it's safe to say I haven't tapped into everything this mod can offer me, but that's to be expected when I have so many different weapons and mods that I could have potentially found. Suffice to say, this run could have gone any way possible, but I'm glad it played out like this. Well, that's that for this video, so throw us a like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more, and feel free to leave any suggestions for future challenge runs in the comments below. I'm always open to ideas, and what you suggest to me could end up being a future video. But until that point comes along, I'll see you on whatever I do next. Take care now.